Welcome to the Survivor's Chair podcast, a podcast where we break down our stories and our trauma, understanding how they have impacted our career and our life. This is a place where we break free from shame, own our truth, and step into our power, one story at a time. Hi, I'm Kim, an adoptee, a former foster youth, hairstylist, salon owner, breast cancer, and complex trauma survivor. So join us, pull up a chair, in this no sugarcoating, no holding back, honest conversation about healing and success. Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 6 of the Survivor's Chair podcast. I am your host, Kim Russell. In this episode, we're going to talk about the comfort of chaos and why letting go of trauma feels so hard. Why do we stay in survival mode and how do we break free from that? We've talked about survival mode quite a bit in the past 5 episodes already. And that is a place that most people who have been through trauma, especially childhood trauma, that's where we live, a lot of us. This episode is going to give you a little bit of why we are stuck in survival mode and why we have this strange comfort in chaos. Why we are so stuck in the chaos is because that's what our brain knows. It knows what's familiar, even if it's not good for us and it doesn't feel good. Because when you're living with your trauma, the not so great things can feel almost normal. And they are, in a sense, normal because that's what we grew up with. That's what we know. You don't expect anything different because you don't know anything different. The only thing you've ever been exposed to is like dysfunction and pain or abuse and neglect and abandonment and loss, etc., etc. I spent a good portion of my life in abusive relationships with men. I didn't think that there was anything different out there, and I didn't look because I didn't feel worthy of anything different. But not only that, it's what my brain knew that I was worthy of. I took the abuse. I settled for less than I deserved, and the thought of anything else was kind of scary. I knew the situation wasn't right, but I had no idea what to do or how to get out. Like I felt trapped. This was all it could be for me. It couldn't be anything else. This was it. And then it got to the point where it was so bad. Each relationship got worse and worse. And then I made the decision to go to therapy, but not the reason you would think. The reason I decided to go to therapy was so I could be a better girlfriend. Not because I wanted to help myself or think that there was anything going on with me. Not that I was going for myself. I was going to be a better girlfriend. I was going to figure out how to get these men to love me, to like me. It makes me cringe when I say that. I thought that was a good thing. Well, how do I get them to love me? What do I have to do different? I had already changed my hours at work, stopped wearing the clothes they didn't like, stopped hanging out with the friends that they didn't like. Whatever they demanded of me, that's what I did. And everything I did different, I thought, ooh, this is going to be the time that they really like me. No, not the case. And I thought, I have someone who kind of likes me once in a while. I mean, that's enough, right? And if I left them, I probably wouldn't find anything better anyways. At least that's what I thought, and that's what I kept telling myself. The bottom line is I didn't feel worthy of anything better. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't have known what to do with something that was better or somebody that was nice, treated me nice, or somebody that allowed me to be myself and put myself first and was a true partner and all of the things because I was comfortable with the chaos. I was comfortable with the drama and I was comfortable with the fighting and the uncertainty of it all. And, because that's what I knew. I was waiting. I was always waiting, hanging on the edge, waiting for the shoe to drop, waiting for everything to fall apart. And it was always teetering on the edge of falling apart. So it's just what I knew. My brain couldn't do anything different because I had my trauma loop going on in my head. You have this auto loop in your head that just keeps going and going and going. of your trauma. So you never get away from it. I'm abandoned. I'm damaged. Nobody could ever love me. So I'll just take what I can get. And I've said it before, I'll just take my little crumbs, my little morsels. I feared losing that chaos because it was comfortable. And who was I without pain and sadness and loss and drama and complaining? My life is so miserable. Woe is me. Look what happened to me. Look at my boyfriend. He's terrible. What do I do? We're fighting. He doesn't want me. He's not answering my calls. What do I do? I'm abandoned. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't know how to be happy. Like, what was happy? I didn't know. That was like a foreign word. I mean, and technically I thought I was happy, but I was doing a lot of drugs, as I said in past episodes, and a lot of drinking. Sometimes for people who have been through trauma, especially childhood trauma, they find it very uncomfortable to be happy, to be content, to be silent, still, at peace. Their body is on overdrive all the time. Like I said in my last podcast, we expect danger at all times. And our body and our brain is waiting for it. We're on high alert at all times. And that's what our brain has been programmed to know. So when you have been through trauma, it shows up in a different way if you've had trauma at different stages in your life. It's very different when you've had trauma, say, at 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, than when you're 12, 13, and then it's different when you're 18, 19, and it's all based on how the brain develops. So let me explain what trauma is. It's an event that happened to you. The event is over, but it still lives inside your body. Your body reacts with anxiety, panic, depression, fear, sadness, loneliness. It reacts as if the trauma is happening all over again. So when people say a trigger, somebody triggered me, that's something that could bring you right back to that moment in time. Your body knows. And I talked about this before. I talked about trauma chips. That's how I felt like in my body. They were just little chips all over my body that were stored of past events. Something would happen and it would trigger, whether it was a loud noise or I was in a crowd and I heard a loud noise, like anything. So I think somebody's breaking into my house, whatever. That's a trigger, and that can trigger the event in your body that you think is still there. So the treatment of trauma is not to fix the past. Like we get hung up on that. Like, am I going to get fixed? I'm going to go to therapy and get fixed. I'm going to do this and be fixed. It's not about that. It's about learning how to manage what's going on in your body, learning how to manage your trauma chips, recognizing when they come up and what they're all about, and that the situation is not the event happening all over again. So treatment of trauma is not to fix the past, but to learn how to feel alive in the present. Our brains get organized by our trauma. That's how our brains work. And traumatized people, they feel physically more helpless, and there's nothing they can do and change situation. They feel stuck, kind of like that's why we stay in the chaos. It's because you don't feel that you can change a situation. This is what it is. This is how it is. I can't get out. I'm stuck. I'm trapped, all the things. And our brain has this little internal map of the world, how our brain developed when we were younger. That's how it maps the world. So it maps that's dangerous. That's not dangerous. This makes me happy. This doesn't make me happy. So if you have constant trauma as a child, whether it's abuse, neglect, whatever it may be, your brain is sorting out that map of how you're going to live in the world. But the trauma also, because of how your brain is wired, it interferes with new learning. It's like hard to move through life because you're just focused on surviving. So when you think about learning something new and changing, or that doesn't even make it into the brain space. So it really is like baby steps to get to this place where you can have a calm body and a content life and a happy life. But I'm here to tell you that you can have that. It's not impossible. Is it challenging? A little bit, but you can get there. Our brain is interpreting things on a subconscious level and is very fixed by the time we are 6 years old. So any of us who have had that trauma before that time, your brain is kind of fixed with how you think the world is going to be and how you think your life is going to be and how you feel about yourself. And the early parts of our life are extremely important to who we become. Our brains are wired by the experiences that we have early on, and the experiences become part of the perception of ourselves. Like how you see yourself. For instance, I'll always use myself as an example because it's based on my own experience. And I felt damaged and unlovable and unworthy and alone. And there was no way out of where I was and who I was. And as adults, as we grow up, our job is to try to separate the child from the person you are today. Try to understand that today is not the danger that you had when you were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever age. When that feeling comes up, you can stop yourself and be like, is this, again, like I always say to myself, and I've said it, I'll probably say it a million times in all of these podcasts, do I know it to be true? Do I have the facts to back it up? Or is it the story I'm telling myself? So do I know that there's danger right now? Or is it the story I'm telling myself? Most of the time, it's the story we're telling ourselves. So our job is to separate as adults, like separate from that child. There's different modalities that can help. One of my favorites is hypnosis. I did that by myself. I would listen on YouTube. And I did that throughout my whole entire cancer treatment. That was very helpful. And I have done a full day of hypnosis, which is amazing. But there's all kinds of things like hypnosis and EMDR and internal family systems. And I have I've been studying all the different systems that they have in the trauma world and getting certified in all of them so I can have some knowledge of all of them. And there's so many things. And then there's yoga and meditation. And let's not forget nature. Let's not forget the healing power of nature. Just going for a walk. You have to have different ways to access different parts of the brain. That feeling when you're walking in nature, that's a different part of the brain than your traumatized part of the brain. So you want to get more of that stuff in your brain and less of the danger in your brain. And this is kind of why talk therapy doesn't work so much, especially for traumatized children, because in talk therapy, you need to reflect on yourself, and you can't. So it's really important to first build up the capacity to be with yourself, to see yourself, to be able to sit with yourself, to be able to sit in silence, to be able to do all these things. Like I said, in talk therapy, you have to reflect on yourself, and that is not easy for traumatized people. I'm going to really get into the brain stuff in the next couple episodes. I just want to make sure I have all my facts straight that I share with you because I'm not in neuroscience, although I have spent more time in the neuroscience field more than any hairdresser should. But it really is eye-opening to understand how the brain works and what shuts down and what doesn't when you've been traumatized. And one of the reasons why we stay in the chaos is because we just don't know any better. Our brains don't know how to do it. And that's when they talk about a bottom-up approach than a top-down approach. Talk therapy is a top-down approach, and they really thought back in the day that if we had people hash out and talk about things a million times, they would get better. But that's not the case. And I can say this based on doing 12 years of talk therapy and then 12 years of dream therapy. And dream therapy was what helped me. Talk therapy, I did because that's kind of what you were supposed to do. And I do think it's great for a lot of people. It depends on the situation.
But for me, dream therapy really was the thing that really kickstarted it for me. And I did them both at the same time. Dream therapy allowed me to get into the emotions more and get into the sensations of my body and what was happening. Unlike talk therapy, we didn't talk about that. And I remember sitting there, my whole body would be tight, like so tight. It was like that in dream therapy too, but it was different. I was able to express what was going on. And dream therapy wasn't about if there was a snake or if there was a tree or, it didn't have anything to do with that. It was a group therapy and it was all adoptees and the therapist was adopted also. So that was really interesting. But it was about how we felt in the dream. If we had a dream, and when people say they don't dream, they do. They just don't remember them. And there's a book called The Little Course of Dreams that we all read, and that helps you kind of retrieve your dreams. So if we had a dream, if I woke up in the middle of the night and I had this dream, I would write it down right away. I would never wait till the morning because you don't remember it. I would write down every detail, but if it stuck with me, then I would bring it to the group and I would say, this is a doozy. I have to talk about this one. And we would dim the lights, close our eyes, and I would talk about the dream in every detail and would talk about what was happening in my body when I was discussing the dream with them. What I felt like when I walked into a certain room, what I felt like when somebody was there. And I have a whole section in my book about this dream therapy and why I went. It's a teaser. I'm going to let you find that out when you read the book. But it was really great as far as feeling what was going on, which is not so much talk therapy. That's the bottom-up approach. The bottom-up approach is body first, getting comfortable in your body, getting the movement in your body, releasing what's in your body. Again, that's like meditation, dancing, singing, movement, theater, playing, nature, again, hiking, swimming. It's really important to know that you're not messed up. Like when people say like, oh, I'm just messed up, or they use the F word, and that's not the case. You don't follow the chaos. You don't stay in the chaos and dysfunction and unhappiness because it's what you want. It's because it's all you know. It's because it's all your brain knows. So that's why we have to change the brain. And you can. Neuroplasticity is what it's called. And you can change your brain by continuously putting things in there that are different than what you're used to. I will put something on YouTube that's some kind of meditation or hypnosis, and slowly your brain starts to reprogram and you think of things a little bit different. You don't have to go out and spend $1 million, and you don't have to sit and listen to it for an hour. And I'm going to be honest with you, meditation, like sitting meditation, was really hard for me. I did do it every morning when I was getting cancer treatment, but before that, it was very hard for me. I couldn't sit still. And I've been working with an integrative oncologist since I finished my chemo treatment. And she put it in perspective for me. She asked me if I meditated, and I said, well, I find it really difficult sometimes. And she said, there's a lot of ways to meditate. There's cutting vegetables meditation. There's walking meditation. Anything that takes you out of that chaos. And she feels that the more you do that during the day is better than even sitting for 20 minutes. Because you're retraining yourself over and over and over again to relax. I try to be conscious of that when I'm cutting my vegetables or going for a walk or stretching. So what's the turning point? How do we change? How do we get comfortable with happy? How do we stop complaining? How do we steer clear from drama instead of just pulling it in? First, it's making those itty-bitty choices. Sometimes we think of things and it feels so big that it paralyzes us. So we do nothing. And some of us are so afraid of change. We're so afraid of losing who we are. You think that we're going to be somebody different. And that's not the case. You're just going to be a better version of yourself, a different version of yourself, a happier version of yourself, a calmer version of yourself. So when you make those little changes, you decide to listen to a meditation or a hypnosis for 5 minutes once a week. That's a start. If it's 5 minutes once a week, just do it at the same time. Just pick a time, pick a day, and do it at the same time. And before you know it, you do 10 minutes. And then maybe you do 10 minutes every other day. And maybe you go for a walk, 5 minutes. Say, I'm only going to do 5 minutes. And to be honest, that's how I quit smoking. I quit smoking back when I was 30, so it's been a long time ago. But I quit smoking by saying, if I can go 5 minutes, and if I want a cigarette in 5 minutes, I'm going to have it. So I would wait that 5 minutes, and then I would get there, and I'd be like, okay, let's see if you can go 5 more minutes. But if you want a cigarette in 5 minutes, you're going to have one. So every time I got to those 5 minutes, I reevaluated, did I want the cigarette, or do I want to go 5 minutes? And I just kept doing that. And I think these small little changes that you can do in your life, a 10-minute walk, a 5-minute stretch in the morning, whatever it is, just something moving in a forward motion to separate yourself from that child, that traumatized child, getting your brain to operate different and getting yourself away from the danger, that feeling of danger, and slowly, you're going to build that tolerance to happy, calm, and content. Because right now there's no tolerance for it because it's just uncomfortable. You don't know what life is without the chaos. And I love journaling. That's one of my favorite things, but I like to write. And that it allows me to get everything out that I feel. Everything. When I say everything, I mean everything. It gets it out of my body. It gets me to stop thinking about it. It's like I take it out and I throw it in the trash. But I am going to tell you, I tell my family all the time, if I'm gone and you see that sunflower journal, do not read it. Do not open it. Just throw it away because you might not like what's in there. So the bottom line is you're not broken. It's not your fault. There's science behind the behaviors. You've been conditioned by your trauma. But just know that there are ways to rewire your brain. And on that note, I will say goodbye until the next episode. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I love feedback. If you're getting something from this, if you want to hear more, if you have a topic that you want me to talk about or wants to come on and talk about their story and talk about their trauma and, ways it's impacted you in your life, your career, your business, just reach out to me. You can head to my website, any of my socials. They're all going to be in the show notes. And thank you for being here for episode number 6 of the Survivor's Chair podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Survivor's Chair podcast. You can head over to my website at www.kimrussellpro.com. That's KIMRUSSELLPRO.com. You can catch up on my blog, or you can follow me on social, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok. All the links will be in the show notes, and I will see you next time in the Survivor's Chair.